Any questions?
Yeah.
Sure, Rachel.
Those telephone poles.
Yes.
Were they cut out, or you had a stencil, or what? How did you do?
It's line of cut. I also did some dry points, but I think the line of cut was more effective in the way I did it. Because again, I was able to do the back and forth. You can't do that so easily with a dry point. So I was able to do the back and forth inking and the negatives, so I was able to get a little bit more of an effect that way. Thank you, Rachel. I love it when somebody comes to my studio and says, "What is this? What are you doing?" That's exactly what I want to hear. I don't want the process to be too obvious. Go ahead.
Do you use a water-based or oil-based?
I use Akua, which is a soy-based ink, and that means it's water miscible, so I can wash it up with soap and water. Now you can do that with oil inks now, but what I love about the Akua inks, I'm getting real technical now, so this is a conversation between you and me. But the beauty about the Akua inks that you can't do so much with oil is I can run the same pace of paper through the ink with multiple plates, and I don't have to wait for the ink to dry between layers. So that's a big deal for me because I'm real impatient. The other thing is I can leave the inks out forever on my inking table. I don't have to clean it up after each session, which is really great because I'm sloppy. So I can just like leave it at the end of the day and go home. I can take 3 days and ink the plates and they'll stay nice and moist. The reason is that Akua inks absorb through the paper. They don't dry in the air. So they dry through the paper, not the air. I do, about half the time I wet the paper and half the time I just print dry. So there's a specific kind of paper called Arch 88. It has no sizing. I can print dry on that, but it only goes so big. For the palms on the other side of the pink wall, they're too big for the paper. I had to buy a roll of paper so I could cut it 48 inches. And that I had to dampen. And so I was able to do that. But again, as long as you keep the paper moist, you can keep on printing. You don't have to wait for it to dry. It's a great thing.
Stupid question, probably, but who cares?
No stupid questions.
Your leaves on your trees are just so accurate.
Oh.
And even the electric pole, so accurate. Do you project something from a real life photo, or do you freehand all of this?
Oh, that's a great question. I work from.
It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. I don't consider myself a realistic, but you're right. It's definitely objective. I start with a photograph. So I take a lot of walks and I take a lot of photos in my little iPhone. And then I go home and I flatten them because I try to make them more abstract. And I'm really trying to go for really the play of light and dark. But yes, then I will sort of draw them and I'll sketch them and then I'll blow them up and I'll sketch them again and I usually make about 4 or 5 different sketches and there's a lot of back and forth and then of course you have to turn it over because it's in reverse. And so yeah, there's a lot of that sort of starting and that's the general flow of things. And now the telephone poles, yeah, I'm going to admit I traced those.
Yeah, well,
I did trace those.
They're just too accurate.
Yeah. It was, I just couldn't get them. I tried to sketch them. I did. I tried to be an honest artist and I tried to draw them. No, they weren't good. So.
Do you use these plates over and over and over?
I do.
For like eternity, or what's their lifespan usually?
That is a really great question. So far, I haven't worn out the lino cuts. I have worn out the dry points. You know, beyond a certain point, what happens with a dry point is when you etch into the plastic, and it creates a kind of a burr. The plastic actually comes up, and that's what grabs the ink. And after a certain amount of time running through the press, that you just can't get that burr. And you can't scrape any more plastic up, because then you go right through the plastic. So yeah. So there's a limited number. I think it's about, I really don't know. I haven't really hit the maximum iterations. But the way I work, I kind of want my line of cuts to break down a little bit. I want to soften that edge, and I want you to kind of think that it's something that's been sublimated to memory, something that's a little bit not quite here and now. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that when you were printing, you picked up the picture.
Yeah.
Put the next thing down. You don't use registers? How, usually, we used to.
You have been, you are a printmaker, yeah.
And I was wondering, how is she doing that without having to replace it?
Well, I hate registering. I'm going to be honest with you. I just hate it. And so the way I work is I work around that, but there are some things like this guy. I did have to register this one very closely because I needed this color plate to merge into this color plate, and I needed these things to line up. And that working on a plate this big, I'm telling you, was tough, because I registered by placing, first of all, I attached the paper to the press bed in such a way that it would stay there. And then I had to take this giant plate. I felt a little like, and I had to take this giant plate and fit it in. I created a kind of I basically took two blocks on the back and the top, and I wedged the plate in. I didn't get it absolutely perfect. I got it pretty close, but it was tough. It's tough.
I really appreciate what you did, and as I say, that just struck me that you worked
Well,
using the methods that I remember.
I don't like to admit that I just don't work very precisely, but part of it is the way I work with my blocks. To your point, I have a lot of blocks, and the idea is to create something that I can kind of slip in and slip out and work improvisationally. I like the dance more than the exactitude. This is why I don't do additions. I just get bored. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. I only do that once a year for our holiday cards. It's like, oh, I gotta do those.
You said you don't use white,
I don't.
but that is very white.
That's a blue plate. I inked a blue plate, and I put my uninked line of cut block on top of it, ran it through the press, pulled it away, and that's what got left. And I did it time, and the more I did it, the more ink I was pulling away. So you get whiter spots no, not from the paper. This is the thing about this method, and I learned this from a wonderful printmaker named Catherine Kernan. She's a woodcut artist in Boston. Do you know her? You're nodding your head. But she taught me this plate-to-plate ink transfer technique, and in this master class I took. And basically, again, her approach was you basically just work the plates as far as you can before you even touch the paper. So in this case, I had the plastic plate, which I inked up. I put the line of cut on top of it, ran it through the press. Then I came back, I put another different line of cut block on top of that, ran it through the press, pulled it away. And each time I'm pulling away more ink, but only in specific places. So I think there were like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 blocks that I worked that way to get that white. Sure.
You said you don't necessarily work dark
I probably work light to dark. But again, I'm not building it up on the paper. I'm building it through the different I'm inking all the blocks first. And then, but you're exactly right. Typically my darkest plate goes last. The other thing about these inks, not to be a commercial for Akua inks, which I think are fabulous. There's a cool story with those, but they're very transparent. So traditional printmakers who use traditional Charbonnel inks, these are wonderful inks. They're thick and creamy and juicy and just sticky, sticky, sticky. They're great inks, but with the transparency that I get, you gotta lean into what you got. I'm able to get some light bouncing around in the painting, in the piece, and that's what I love about the inks that I use.
How light fast are they?
Well, I hope forever. I mean, you know. I've only been doing this for about 6 years. So, but the Akua inks are being used by master printmakers across the United States. There is this big controversy about which is better, oil or Akua and blah, blah, blah. But I personally think that these are pretty cool. But again, you have to lean into it. And, you know, I hope they last as long as you want them to last. Have another question? I can see your wheels turning. No? Okay. No. Yes, ma'am.
For a lot of people know what the background of the process, but can you quickly explain what registering means, or?
Okay. Let's see. So registration is basically making sure that this color, if you, this color lines up perfectly with this color. That's the simplest way I can put it. Would you agree, Stella? Pretty much?
Yeah, the image.
Yeah. Yeah, if you've got a more traditional, less sloppy and, you know, messy printmaker would make a number of blocks. If they're doing color registration, they would make a number of blocks, and or they do what they call suicide printmaking, which is reduction. I don't have the guts to be a reduction printmaker, but basically where you would cut and then the next layer, you're basically cutting the white away. And so you cut the white away so that your next block that has a different color fits exactly into that white space. So I don't want to cut any, I think I'm out of time. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for all your wonderful questions. Thank you.